Thanks for tuning in again this week. This week's song is going to be by amazing songwriter, amazing performer. He was part of the legendary, what's referred to as the Wrecking Crew, which is the recording artists from the 1960s, Tommy Tedesco and Carol Kay and all those folks that used to record on the West Coast and recorded on thousands of hits. He worked with those folks and then went on to a brilliant solo career and band career. And I'm referring to Glenn Campbell, amazing guitar player. Absolutely just amazing performer. Seemed to be extremely well liked by so many. If you haven't seen the documentary of his very last, I think it was his last tour, where he tours with his kids in the band, it's at times, it's extremely moving. He had dementia and Alzheimer's severely, couldn't remember the names of his kids, couldn't remember folks around him, day-to-day things. He would become very combative, which is very happens a lot with people who have Alzheimer's. My mom had Alzheimer's, or I don't know the differentiating there, the difference. My mom had dementia, but they say they can't detect Alzheimer's until after they pass. Well, she got to where she didn't know us, know anyone. But one of the things that happens is they can become very combative. They can become very angry, and very mean-spirited. And then, as with my mom, at one point when it kicked in full and she didn't remember anything, she was as happy as could be. It was very, very strange. Anyway, if you haven't had a chance to watch the documentary, I'm not really sure what streaming service it's on, but it's a wonderful documentary, and it basically chronicles his whole last tour and the things that he had to put up with, the things that the family and the band members, etc., kind of dealt with, and it's amazing. You see so many stories where people will be in nursing homes and things, and they put the headphones on them and play music to them that they've known from their lives and their past, and all of a sudden they kind of come back. Tony Bennett was a grand example. The concert that he did with Lady Gaga, the big swing show, literally before the show, he's sitting in the green room with his wife asking her, "Why are we here?" And she says, "Well, you're going to sing." And he says, "Oh, really?" He goes, "Well, what am I singing tonight?" And she tells him. They lead him out on stage. The curtain opens, and it's like this light bulb goes off. And he's Tony Bennett. And he never misses a beat. He remembers people's names. He sings the songs and the lyrics, and it's absolutely incredible. Glenn Campbell, similarly, he gets on stage and starts playing. He remembers the songs. He sings well. He plays all the solos and everything, but can't introduce his kids. And it's just really, really a bizarre disease. It's a horrific disease. It just really is. But yeah. So anyway, if you haven't had a chance to watch that documentary, I highly recommend it. Anyway, again, as I say in every video, I'm dealing with allergies just horrendously here in Central Texas. But I'm going to try to do Wichita Lineman for you and see how this goes. This actually came to mind to me. I'm currently playing with a really wonderful blues artist, doing several shows with him here. And his dad was a very famous jazz guitarist who was really good friends with Jimmy Webb, and Jimmy Webb wrote this song. Anyway, we're going to give this a shot and see how it goes. lineman for the county, and I drive the main road, searching in the sun for another overload. I hear you singing in the wires, I can hear you through the wine. The Wichita Lineman is still on the line. I know you need a small vacation, but I don't look like rain. If it snows, that stretch down south won't ever stand the strain. I need you more than I want you, and I want you for all time. The Wichita Lineman is still on the line. Still on the line. Yeah, Wichita Lineman. I survived. Oh, by the way, I forgot to say, got my coffee. Hope you guys have your coffee. Hey guys, I'd like to interrupt this video real quick to just tell you about a product that I truly believe in, I use. For any of my singing friends, for any of my friends that do speaking engagements, they teach, whatever, use your voice a lot. I live in Central Texas. My allergies, especially the last 10 years or so, have been just awful. And I literally get no relief whatsoever, 24/7, 7 days a week. I've tried drops, I've tried shots, I've had all the tests. In fact, I'm restarting tests again just to see if there's anything I can do, because I do teach some, I of course sing, and it's really affecting me as a performer. Because a lot of the gigs that I get are because I also sing besides play. So I want to tell you about a product that actually does help, and it's helped me quite a lot. It's a product called Vocal Ease. I don't know if you guys can see that or not really well. But VOCAL EZE. I'll put a link in the description. I'll also put a link to where if you guys want to try it, you get 15% off on your first order if you use the link that I post. It's all natural. They make sprays, they make lozenges, all sorts of different flavors. They even have cayenne flavors, which I tried once, and that was, yeah, I couldn't do that. But it's really great stuff. I actually, when I'm, there's a few acts that I sing with where I have to sing really high tenor parts, I'll actually keep the spray on my amplifier so I can turn around in between songs and do a shot in my throat. It's just something about the way they coat, the way they help break up the mucus, etc. But I swear by them. I've turned a lot of friends onto them, and a lot of performers that I work with. Again, it's Vocal Ease, VOCALEZE. I'll put links in the description so that you can try them if you want. I highly recommend. Anyway, thanks very much for letting me put that in there real quick, and now back to the video. So this week on the video, I want to talk about kind of doing in my series here on being an aging musician and things that I've learned over the years. I want to talk about playing to the gig. I've had some experiences recently that have come to mind and that I've also been a part of that make me think of this. And again, I apologize in these videos if I ramble a little bit. I don't ever make notes. I get an idea of what I want to talk about and then I just talk. But it's all about playing to the gig. What do I mean by playing to the gig? So it's wonderful to be an incredibly talented musician, have tons and tons of licks and ideas in your mind and things that you can just kind of rip out there really fast and interject into the songs and things. That's amazing. have the utmost respect for those for folks like that. I do a little bit on occasion, but but that's the gist of today's video. And it's playing to the gig. What I mean by this is, especially as a sideman, my job is to come in when I'm filling in for someone or subbing on a gig or whatever, is to try to do things to augment the sound or the song, to enhance the song, but also reinforce and support the other musicians, especially the front person if it happens to be his or her band, and playing what helps to work with the other musicians to make the song sound really good. And sometimes that means playing pretty heavily, or maybe playing a lot of movement or inflection in the song. Maybe it's something kind of funky where you're going dum 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 type of thing or something. But it's always supporting. It's always trying to do what not only fits the song or supports the song, but fits the song. One instance comes to mind of someone that I've known for years that is a very, very wonderful bass player, talented as just all get out, and he's at one point was playing with a very talented blues player here in town, singer, and he's one of those guys who can do a lot of the Victor Wooten type things where he's doing a lot of chords and he's doing tapping and all that stuff. Well, this is a blues gig. And so instead of laying down a nice foundation, maybe a little fill here and there to help support the guitar, and it is in a trio setting, so sometimes trio settings open up space a little bit more to be a little more creative. But still, your fundamental function, in my opinion, this is all in my opinion, is to be a solid base, a solid bottom and foundation for the front person. And so this friend was, who again is very talented, 75% of the gig is doing all of these chords and tapping and all of this stuff behind the guitarist. Now, I've been very fortunate. I've toured with a couple of very predominant blues artists, and I play with tons of them here, and it didn't fit. It didn't support. In fact, sometimes it was a distraction, and not necessarily in a good way at points. It kind of pulled, and it was almost like pulling focus. Well, that's not your job. You get focus when maybe it's your turn to solo or something. You get focus when you're introduced and get those acknowledgments. But you can also get focus by just being a tight rhythm section and playing the parts in it. And you may have to play simply. There's times when the best parts are just extremely simple, and like on some beautiful ballads and things. Sometimes all it is just whole notes and maybe a couple of half notes here and there, and once in a while you do a nice little riff coming into a section or something. But it's all about supporting. Another case that I just had recently, playing a jazz gig, and there was an instrumentalist on the gig who is incredible, but he was again playing as a support player. He wasn't the main focus. It wasn't his band. It's not his group. He's a support. He's a sideman. And so the front person would try to, some of the songs were songs that we never played with this person. So that's a big part of it, is a lot of these things you've never played. You've maybe played the songs, but not with the person that you're supporting. So you got to listen, because sometimes, as in with this artist, they played alternate changes in some of these popular jazz songs that those of us that do play some jazz, I play some jazz, you know, you're used to playing certain changes. Well, this artist wanted to play a little bit different changes here and there, was laying them out very well. But this other support musician kind of chose not to really pay attention and not to really listen, and then proceeded to kind of play all over the place, burying the front person at times, playing riffs and feels that were way out from what the front artist was doing and was evidently feeling for the song. And then during in between songs, would while the front person's trying to talk to the audience and introduce the next tune or whatever, or maybe even think of a next tune, just continue to play. And it was disheartening. It was very disheartening. And again, this person is a amazing musician, amazing. But they weren't playing the gig. They weren't playing to the gig. You know, when you're backing someone up, lay back, leave some room, let things happen, give room to the other players. You know, like I said, sometimes nothing but a simple chord, you know, helps fill up some space so that somebody else can do their thing over the top of it. And so many times, again, I've said this in so many videos, and if you ever run into a really good drummer by the name of Fred Howard, his brother is a dear friend of mine, John Howard, who plays with everybody. He's based out of Nashville. But Fred played with us for years back in the 80s. And when I was young and I was cocky and overplaying and all that stuff, he turned to me one day and he said, you know, it's not what you play, it's what you don't. And he's absolutely right. There are times when you get to let loose and have a ball and just let it rip, you know. And then there's times when you just need to open your ears and listen to what the other players do. And sometimes you'll be amazed. And sometimes you'll be amazed where the songs take you. My brother and I and two other friends, guitarist and a wonderful guitarist, wonderful drummer, who we've played with these guys for 35 years, probably on and off. We have a little band that we call the Grecian Brothers, though I don't have any hair to Grecian, but we call the Grecian Brothers, and every once in a great while we'll play a gig together. It doesn't happen very often, but we'll play a gig together, and just by listening to each other, it's amazing where some of the songs go. Now, this band and the songs that we do are mostly jam band stuff. It's all 60s stuff and things like that. And it's a blast. It really is a lot of fun because it is so loose, but we listen to each other. And next thing you know, maybe my brother, who's I'll never admit this, but well, I guess I'm admitting it now, he's a great keyboard player. Semi-nice guy, but he's a great keyboard player. Anyway, you know, next thing you know, all of a sudden he's playing in the middle of a rock tune, some salsa feel, taking us in a complete different direction. And when you listen and you've got decent players, all of a sudden everybody just goes and you just go with it. And then eventually you come back, you know? But it's all about listening to each other, and it's all about listening to the people that you're trying to support. And I know I've talked about this before, but it's so important. There's many of the songs with this artist that I'm working with right now that I've never played before. And on stage, and I'll give you a little background. He only comes into town for 2 or 3 weeks, and he does 7, 8, 9 gigs. And so I really didn't get a song list or anything ahead of time. I was given some songs that were played in previous trips, and so I, sketched out some light charts on those things. Again, not knowing if we're even going to do the tunes or not. But I get on the gigs, and he's a very good front person, and he's a very good leader. And so before the literally on stage, as he's announcing the song, he'll turn around to me and go, "We're in F. It's got basically these standard changes, and the bridge goes to B flat. Listen." And so that's how I make it through the gig. Luckily, I have really good ears, and I can hear changes. I do play some guitar, as I've massacred on these videos, so I can, if I can see him, I can watch his hands and kind of get an idea. And then he's very good about, like, before a bridge or things, he'll turn around and go, "We're going to B flat," or whatever. And then at least it gives me a starting point. So in situations like this, I play very simply at first. I'll play just enough to give it some rhythm, but I don't overplay at all because I'm not sure where I'm going, in the tune sometimes. But once we've played through the song and I get an idea for, okay, this is where he's going and things, then I can give it a little more, feel and groove and things like that to kind of, again, support the song better and to support him as an artist better. One of the issues that came from a gig recently was, though, that he was in front of me. I was back in the back of the stage. I couldn't see his hands and I couldn't hear him. His amp was probably 4 feet in front of me, and I really couldn't hear him very well, and that was an extreme challenge. I really was telling my wife, I was mentally exhausted at the end of the gig, just trying to listen so carefully to what he was doing, so that I could, again, play the right changes and support him. And it was difficult. It really was. The gigs where I'm standing more alongside of him are way, way easier. But again, thankfully, I have good ears. I hear changes, and I do listen. I pay attention. I'm constantly watching. I'll glance at, if I have a chart, I'll glance at the chart just enough to give me, a few measures or whatever, and then I go back to watching him. Because again, you never know. Maybe the artist wants to slow down. Maybe he wants to put a hold in this section and stuff. And again, it's all songs I've never played before. I don't know how he's doing them. And so I'm just listening and watching and paying attention. And again, trying to do my job as a rhythm player by supporting him and not going over the top, not doing things to throw him off his game, because if we all support each other, then the whole thing is much more solid. It sounds more solid. It sounds more professional. People in the audience think you've been playing together for ages. I've been on gigs before where people walked up and said, "Wow, man, how long you guys, blah blah blah," and I usually don't tell anybody that it might be my first gig or whatever, but again, because I'm kind of leery of that stuff, but if it's a friend or somebody I know, I say, well, actually I'm kind of learning on the spot, and sometimes they'll be amazed by how good it sounds and how tight it sounds, and it's all about support. I understand people get bored on gigs. I've done some theater gigs and things where you play the same show night after night after night. And so what I'll try to do on those nights where I'm maybe starting to wander, I'm thinking about, what do I have to do the next day or whatever. I try to find something in the score or in the music that I'm playing. I try to maybe work on long tones. I work with a country artist that tells me that I play too staccato of notes at times, and he likes much fuller, longer tones, and so I will maybe start working on that a little bit if it again complements the music, or I'll try to find something maybe in my technique while I'm playing the parts that I need to play. I'll concentrate more on my technique, try to pull something from the gig that keeps it fresh and keeps you thinking about it. There's been times when it didn't really matter, where instead of playing a certain riff in first position, I'll move it up the neck. and work on it that way and play things. And again, things to keep you fresh. But again, always supporting. I'm always trying to support my front artist. And I think that's one big reason why I get a lot of calls, which I'm so grateful for. The other thing is, and I'm sure there are people that'll argue about this statement, but I try not to be a pain in the butt on the gig. I try to be easygoing. I try to be relaxed about things. If I have a problem, I try to talk to people about it after the gig. Now, there was a gig recently, and I'm a little ashamed to say this, but I did get a little upset on the gig and actually said something on stage that went over the mic. And it wasn't anything bad. Basically, I was on a gig at a very nice club, very nice people, playing with a band that I enjoy. It's kind of a rockabilly band. But there's a lot of people in the band, and the place where I had to stand on stage was right directly under an AC vent. So, as I've gotten older, and I don't know if I've mentioned this before, I've lost like 120 pounds over the last several years. And so with losing all the weight, I get cold really fast and really easily. And my hands, my fingers will start to go numb. The tips of my fingers will literally go numb. Well, if you're a musician that plays steel strings, this is painful. And so by the end of the gig, I was playing electric on this night, and by the end of the gig, I literally couldn't play on my fingertips. I was palming the bass, playing notes because my hands hurt so much and my fingers hurt so much. And one of the songs later in the evening, really towards the end of the show, and I had withstood this all night. I was starting to get pretty frustrated, and I do have a mic. I do sing a little bit on this gig. They called a tune that I have a solo written. It's not a written solo, but it's just a solo is in this song for me, and I leaned to the side and told the singer, I can't solo tonight. And they said, why? And I said, I am freezing over here. I said, I can't feel my fingers. Well, that went out over the mic. I leaned to the side, but it still went out over the mic. And luckily there wasn't a lot of people there. Nobody in the club was upset by anything. I think there was one person that said that I don't know. Anyway, it was silly. And I apologized to the leader later. I felt bad about it, but I was frustrated and I was hurting. And I told them later on, I said, I can't stand there anymore. I said, you've got to figure out another place on stage for me. And it's like literally I'm off to the back and to the side, and you know how rhythm section usually is. It's back in the corner someplace, you know. And but I was freezing to the point where my fingers hurt, and it wouldn't have. The only thing that would have helped is if I had been wearing gloves, and I can't play in gloves. And so I did apologize for that, and I did feel bad about that. I really did. I didn't want to do anything to mess up the gig for the leader. It's a wonderful gig, and it's a lot of fun, and I enjoy playing with this band, and I even told them after the gig, I said, if the club owner does say anything to you about it, they're not they are unhappy about it or whatever, tell them that I won't do the gig anymore, and that you can go in with another bass player, because I don't want you to lose the gig over some stupid statement that I made. But it looks like everything's fine with that. But again, it's about, and I say this all the time, it's about showing up, know your stuff, have good equipment that works, have what you need to do the gig, dress properly, show up on time or a little early. You never know what's going to happen. I don't know if I ever mentioned this before. I was playing at a prominent hotel here in town with a bunch of wonderful friends. They have a really good show group, and we were at a hotel, and they had done a drop of power to the stage. And I always get to the gig an hour and a half, hour early, almost always. And the guy who wired up the electric, when he did the drop, I said, so it's okay to plug into that now? He goes, oh yeah, everything's fine. And I plugged into it and I watched, and I was literally mesmerized because I couldn't do anything. I watched my power cable smoke all the way up into my amp, and my amp went pop, and it was done. And he had wired 220 to the stage. Luckily, I didn't live that far away from the hotel, and I could run home really quick. All it did was pop the fuse, thankfully. But I didn't have another fuse. I was able to drive home because I had given myself enough time, grab another amp, which luckily I have several, and then drove back to the gig, and everything was fine after they did another drop. But you never know. You just never know. Or you show up. Last night, this gig was local, and it's a very prominent jazz club. But the place where they told us to park, I'd never been to. It's downtown. You never know what traffic's going to be like. So I got there about an hour ahead of time. Again, just giving myself plenty of time. You never know if you're going to have a car problem. You're never going to have a blown tire or anything. I know guys that'll literally walk in at the last minute, and I don't get it. I don't understand it. It's rolling the dice too much. It's making everybody nervous, making the sound man nervous. Played a gig recently where the drummer, we were all asked to be at the gig an hour ahead of time to set up. It was a private party. We were making very good money. And the drummer showed up literally 10 minutes before the gig and is loading in 10 minutes before the gig. And no prior, hey, I'm going to be late because I have this or anything, nothing. Just showed up 10 minutes before the gig. I don't get it. I don't understand it. To me, it's kind of disrespectful. But anyway, that's just me. That's the way I work. So, again, I don't want to get off on too many other tangents. But, again, it's all about playing to the gig. When you have your moment to shine, shine. All for it, man. But, support each other. Support the players. Support the songs. Support the music. That's what it's all about, in the end, is to have fun. We got into this. None of us really probably thought, unless you were 20 years old and thought you were going to get a huge record contract. Nobody thought that we were going to make huge amount of money doing this. It was always hopes, but even then, 9 times out of 10, when you're a support and or side musician, you get replaced anyway eventually along the line because they decide that there's somebody better and they got to have somebody with a bigger name and whatever, and okay, whatever, and just the way the business is. It's just jumping from band to band almost sometimes. There are those frequencies or those occasions where you see an artist that the band's been together for 30 or 40 years, and that's amazing. That's holy crap, is that amazing. But again, to me, it's just about, it really is, and I just see this so much in younger players where they get on stage and they just want to play every lick they know. And they want to, every moment they want to show you that it's almost like they're on an audition every single gig, which maybe you are, but you can be in audition mode and still support the song, and then shine in your moments, and then show people that you can lay back and play quieter and support what other people are doing on stage. That was a long rant, and I'm really sorry. But there's been a lot of instances that I've seen of that lately on gigs, and again, I'm so thankful that I'm still playing, and I still get to keep playing, and I understand that in the big realm of things, I'm not that old yet, thankfully, but hopefully, I get to that stage where I'm already one of the senior guys here in town. I've been here playing as long, if not longer, than a lot of guys, but it's just things that you pick up after you've been doing this for a while, and especially if you're someone that plays in a lot of different situations. I mean, I've mentioned this before, you know, one night I can be playing with a full-blown show band with horns, and we're doing, you know, Motown and pop songs, stuff that I don't, you know, the pop stuff, Lizzo and things like that. Wonderful artists. It's stuff I don't listen to, you know, Justin Timberlake and things. I've heard them, but I don't really listen to that stuff. But and then next night you're playing a country gig, and then the next night, you know, sometimes I'm playing a swing gig. I'm playing a theater show, you know, that's completely different, and or playing, you know, I play rock sometimes, you know, and so it's just you know, it's wonderful, and it's fun, and it's full of great experiences and great players. But again, if I don't listen and support those players and support the songs in the way they're supposed to be, or at least the way that the front person wants, then I'm not doing my job. And again, you know, some artists may be, yeah, well, I don't really care, and some artists may be, man, you really played all over the place tonight, and I don't understand why you were, you know, feeling like you had to fill up every moment, and I really wish you wouldn't do that, you know. And some players, if you tell them that, they're like, well, you know, screw you, you know, this is what I do or whatever. Fine, you know, go find a band that lets you do that, you know. But anyway, that's my rant for this week. It's all about supporting the music. It's about supporting the other artists, especially the artist who hired you. And so please just, you know, take a minute and listen. When you prepare for gigs, prepare well. Go in, do your best, have fun. It's supposed to be fun. And as I've been saying lately in all my videos, life is short, folks. Don't just live it, experience it. Have some fun. Get out and do some things. Stretch your limits. Do some things maybe that you wouldn't normally do. I've just recently gotten back into playing solo shows and duo shows on a guitar and singing. I hadn't done that in years and years. My guitar chops have really suffered, of course, because of it. And my calluses have been really suffering because of it. But I'm having a blast. And I'm trying to take a few courses and get my chops back up and learn some different styles. I'm a huge Kevmo fan. But stretch your limits. You know, I've said this in a few videos. Take an art class, take a photography class, do a video class, take any class, go back and finish a degree. Get out and listen to artists. Go see art. Go see anything maybe that you wouldn't normally be a part of. Travel, whatever. Just live. Experience. Get out and do something and have fun. Thank you very much for watching my videos. Please hit like, please hit subscribe. I would love to grow the channel so that more people can be subjected to my rants. But again, thank you very much for watching the video.